let's try solving some one-step equations that have fractional rational numbers in them. So let's take a look here. Equations with fractions. And don't forget, the first step is to always locate your variable. So I see here for this question, I have a variable n, and it's on the left side of the equal sign. So this is the only side that I can use numbers for to eliminate. So I'm trying to isolate n, which means I want to get rid of this adding of 1/4. So the inverse of adding is subtracting, and I'm going to do that to both sides. Now, you could certainly do this by hand and create common denominators, but we're going to use our calculator today for speed. So let's take a look at our calculator over here. Now, some calculators have a fraction button that looks like this one right here, second column, third button down, has an n over d. And some calculators have a fraction button that actually looks like this. So you're looking for a button like that, or you're looking for a button with a numerator-denominator symbol on it. So once I press that button, I can enter my 5 in the numerator, I arrow down to enter my 6 in the denominator, and then I arrow to the right to get out of that fraction. So that's 5/6, and I'm going to, actually got it right over here, a subtraction sign. I'm going to subtract, and I got to press the fraction button again. 1, arrow down to the denominator, 1/4, arrow to the right if you want to get out, and looks like my answer is 7/12. Now let's take a look at question number 14 here. So I have my right side of the equation has my constant, and that's what I want to clear. So I'm going to add 3 2/3. Looks like I have a mixed number this time. So let's see how we put that in our calculator. So I'm going to clear this out, and I'm going to enter 11/18 first. So I have 11, arrow down to the denominator, 11/18. And I want to add, now 3 is my whole number and 2/3 is my fraction. So I'm going to press 3 first, and then I'm going to press my fraction button. See what that happened there? That put that 3 in the numerator, and that's not what I wanted to happen. So let's delete this here. Let's see if I press 3, and then if I space over, no, space over. Ooh, I didn't want to do that. That's my conversion button. Oh, I see it. Here it is. Okay. So you see how when I tried to press 3 and then the fraction button to do the 2/3, see when I did that it automatically put my 3 in the fraction. I didn't want that. So if you look above the fraction button right here, you see actually a big U and a little ND, and that stands for unit, numerator, and denominator. So that's what I need to use for a mixed number. So in order to do that, I have to press my green button first. So second, fraction button. There we go. Unit, numerator, and denominator. So there we have 11/18 plus 3 2/3. Press enter, and I get 77/18. Now I could certainly write that as my answer. If you'd like to convert that to a fraction that is reduced or as a mixed number, if you look right next to the button we've been pressing up here in green, you see it says n over d and then 2 arrows, unit, numerator, denominator. If you want to go back and forth between an improper fraction and a mixed number, you can press this green button and then press this scientific notation key there, and it's going to take 77/18, and look, it's arrowing over to this. Say, hey, you want to go back and forth between these two formats. Press enter, and there you go, 4 5/18. So 4 5/18. So let me review that with you again here. So if I get a large improper fraction and I want to convert it to a mixed number, I simply press this conversion button that's up here in green, numerator denominator to unit with numerator and denominator. Alright, so that's the inverses of addition and subtraction. So let's see if we can get some inverses here that are multiplication. So let's take a look at question 17. So I have 2/3 x equals 48. So 2/3 is actually a coefficient. So 2/3 is multiplying. So technically we know that the inverse of multiplying is dividing, but when you divide by a fraction, you actually multiply by the reciprocal. So when you divide by a fraction, oh, here we go. To divide by a fraction, multiply by its reciprocal. And if reciprocal is too fancy of a word for you, you can write underneath flip. That's a synonym. Reciprocal is the flipping of a fraction. So instead of writing dividing by 2/3, instead of writing dividing by 2/3, I'm going to write what that means. And dividing by 2/3 means that I'm actually going to multiply both sides of this equation by the flip of this fraction, or 3/2. So 3 times 2 divided by 3 times 2, these are inverses. And 48 times 3/2, so I could certainly do that on my own, but let's use our calculator here. So 48 times 3/2. 48 times, I'm going to press this fraction button, and I'm going to press 3, arrow down to 2. 48 times 3/2 is 72. So 48 times 3/2 is 72. All right, let's take a look at question 18 here. 7 equals negative 1/3 times w. So again, that is implied multiplication, and the inverse of multiplication is division. I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 3 over 1. Negative 3 over 1, which is actually just multiplying both sides by negative 3. So these are inverses. Multiplicative inverses reduced to an invisible 1. And then 7 times negative 3 over 1, which I really don't even need the calculator here, but let me show you how you could do this without writing the multiplication yourself. You could simply write 7 parentheses fraction negative 3 over 1 parentheses, and the calculator understands that that is multiplication as well. So the answer here is negative 21, which we knew.